Mississippi. We have with us on the line the great, the one and only Sid Salter, Vice President for Strategic Communications and Director of Public Affairs at Mississippi State University. How you doing this morning, Sid?
I'm well, Lucian. How about you?
I'm doing well. How's everything up in God's country?
Well, basketball is continuing to evolve. Baseball is just around the corner, and as you know, in Starkville, baseball season is one of our favorite seasons. So life's good. Our students are doing well. Not a lot to complain about.
Well, that's good. We're crossing our fingers for good weather. Beth and I are planning to be there for opening weekend of baseball, and we hope it'll be at least warm enough to be outside a little bit.
I think that's going to be doable. But, you know, as usual, you don't like the weather, wait a week, you'll
exactly
fall into it.
Well, you wrote an interesting piece this week talking a little bit about the effect that the President Trump's tariffs might have on Mississippi. Can you tell us a little bit about how you see this affecting Mississippi?
Yes, and you know the hard thing about taking on this topic is that you know, when I wrote the piece on Sunday, the policy and the reaction to it globally has continued to evolve and change, and so it's a moving target right now. And as in many things, the Trump administration is moving very quickly on this. But, you know, obviously tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico, the three largest trading partners for the United States, about 41% of American trade, over $1 trillion in goods impacted by this. And of course, some of this is short term, some of it's long term. There has been concern about NAFTA since the Clinton administration. NAFTA succeeded on some fronts. There's been debate about it on others. But at this point, the Trump administration is talking about two things. They want assistance, particularly from Canada and Mexico, on tightening down open borders. And the president has talked about interrupting the flow of fentanyl into the country, very dangerous, highly abused drug that you know, we're losing young people all over the country, certainly here in Mississippi. And so those were the two stated goals. But beyond that, it has real ramifications for America's geopolitical relationships. A lot of folks operate, when they think about China, on stereotypes that have existed about China since the end of World War II and into the Korean era. China is a very robust economy, 1.4 billion people. One of the primary concerns in China is the ability to feed that 1.4 billion people. And so about a decade ago, 10 to 12 years ago, China launched the Belt and Road Initiative to set up land and maritime trade routes to make them more self-sufficient. One of the areas that has been most problematic to China due to the fact that they have a large population and a lack of sufficient arable land is food production. And that's been of great benefit to Mississippi farmers and producers. End of World War II, the average Chinese citizen rarely had meat. During the 60s and 70s, the diet of the Chinese citizen changed, and particularly pork was introduced into it, increased amount of imported poultry. So, you know, poultry, soybeans, livestock in general, there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity for American farmers and producers, Mississippi farmers and producers. And we have a $9 billion agriculture production in Mississippi. And when you look at trade in our state, you're talking about exports of about $1.1 billion, while we import $1.86 billion. And so we're buying.
That's just the state of Mississippi?
That's just the state of Mississippi. So we are selling agricultural goods, but also refined petroleum, medical instruments, dyes, chemical wood pulp, other products, and then we buy crude petroleum, bituminum, pig iron, non-alloy, and then medical and surgical instruments. But it has an impact on our ag policy in the state. It has, of course, impact on our security. What we have seen, the number one trading partner for Mississippi right now has been Panama. Well, Panama was signed up on the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, and just today, Panama stepped away from that, which is considered a victory for the Trump administration in this policy. If other countries that are involved with the Belt and Road with China step away from it, that's a win for our country. The long term of this is that there are a number of products that we import that our citizens want. China is in a position to play hardball with us, and you notice that the tariff on China was significantly less than the tariffs put on with Canada and Mexico. I think that's got everything to do with geography and with the size of the Chinese economy. We need the border help from Canada and Mexico. We need large markets available to American exporters with China. So it's a delicate balance, but Mississippians are no more or less immune to the long-term and short-term impacts of these tariffs than anybody else in the country. And because of our success in agriculture and timber, it's something that all of us need to pay attention to. I've been kind of amazed, Lucian, at how people, you were talking about explaining this to young people. I think the best example for Mississippians is the markup on eggs at Waffle House.
That's the truth.
Our kids can understand that. And so it's to the point now that I guess my second look when I get through checking the Bluebell ice cream case in the grocery store is to look at the vast amounts of acreage in the egg section. There's just no eggs to buy, and the price is incredibly high. Understanding that we're talking at the base level, supply and demand. So in the short term, our products are going to cost more. We're going to pay more for what we're buying, but Mississippi, I think, is fairly well poised to ride this out.
I don't know that many people, clearly our agricultural producers are acutely aware, but I don't know that most people realize just how much in terms of food stock and other agricultural product we're exporting to the Chinese from Mississippi.
Oh, well, I think that's absolutely true. And again, it goes back to the fact that you have a really large country that isn't situated to grow their own. And so not only is China active in the import-export markets, but through this Belt and Road Initiative, they're actually buying up land in South America, Africa, other places around the globe where they can, in effect, grow their own. But there are, of course, additional cost with that. And there's opportunity there for Mississippi growers and producers. But it's a fascinating thing to watch. You mentioned Smoot-Hawley. Smoot-Hawley, NAFTA, there's been a long progression of how tariffs figure into the American economy. This is going to be kind of uncharted territory short term. I think that you will see the Trump administration react as our trading partners around the globe react. And I think that so far, the president has achieved some of the goals he set out to. Fentanyl trade, because it's a criminal enterprise, will be more difficult.
You have time to stick with us for one more segment, Sid? We're coming up on a break.
Sure.
Well, y'all will stick with us. This is Lucian Smith here on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi. We'll have more with Sid Salter right after this break. Morning, y'all. This is Lucian Smith here on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Still have Sid Salter with us. Sid's a Vice President of Strategic Communications and leads public affairs for Mississippi State. We've been talking a little bit about the tariffs. Sid, it's been interesting, and we were talking about this before. This has moved so quickly, and it does feel like, at least in the Canada and Mexico situation, that the tariff threat from the president has been almost tactical, sort of a way to get them to move on fentanyl and border control. But how do you see things playing out with China? Because that's a little bit of a different situation, both because of the size of the market and also what we're trying to get from them.
Well, obviously, the diplomacy part of this is dicier with China because of the size of their Navy and because of the resources the country has. Now, if we were having this conversation 4 or 5 years ago, at that point, China held the largest share of American debt. And so we were more vulnerable. They were in a stronger position. COVID really punished the Chinese economy, and they were forced to sell off a significant amount of that debt. And now, of course, Japan holds far more U.S. debt than does China. And China, now, make no mistake, they've still got, $700 billion worth of U.S. debt. But obviously, a lot of things come into play. The supply of semiconductors, which go in everything from computers to cars to you name it. And we are still playing catch up with semiconductors. So that single item is important. The Taiwan question. And then it's just maintaining peace in the world, emerging partnerships. What does India do? And so there's a lot tied to this. But I think it's important when people examine this, there is a strategic and a tactical side to this, because the Trump administration has been pretty nimble about granting an extra 30 days or postponing this or escalating that. And they've gotten, as I mentioned earlier with Panama, they've gotten some reaction, a positive reaction. What we have
a lot of people who made predictions about where this was going to go, and myself included on some of them, have been proven wrong. I mean, this is so far feels like it's working out for the Trump administration.
So far, but again, to go back to the Mississippi example, the United States exported about $30 billion in agricultural products to Mexico, about $29 billion to Canada, $26 billion to China. That's a lot of export, and that's before you get to technology. And so these are volatile markets that have the potential to really impact, the American economy. And that's why I think you see American Farm Bureau, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, others who are saying, yes, we want stronger borders. Yes, we want to interrupt the flow of fentanyl, but we want to do so in a way that doesn't tank some of these relationships. And, obviously we're dealing with folks in the country, I would suggest some in Congress, who don't fully understand import, export, and, the impact that has on the economy. Export's what you sell to your trading partners. Import is what you buy from your trading partners. And states have import-export balances. Countries have them. And so how well Mississippi business community does, Mississippi agriculture community does, depends in great measure on how many of these tariff policies have legs, how long they last, and just the luck of the draw on what product is affected based on what we have in the production in this state.
Hey, Sid, we've got about 30 seconds left, and this is only tangentially related, but I'm curious if you have thoughts on, it looks like we're demolishing USAID, DOGE is, and clearly there's some probably good reasons for it, but when we're in this global race with the Chinese, I wonder what sort of risk you think there might be to getting rid of something that helps us buy influence around the world.
I think USAID has helped open doors that might otherwise remain closed. Plus, there's the humanitarian angle of it. Have there been abuses? Of course. But by and large, as you say, America has been able to legitimately buy influence through USAID programs and to alleviate hunger and suffering. I don't think at the end of the day that America is going to get out of that business, but I do think it will look different. And I think right now, as we've seen with the tariffs, there's a large threat and a reduced enforcement.
Well, Sid, thank you for being with us. That's been Sid Salter, political analyst with Mississippi State University. This is Lucian Smith here on the Gallo Radio Show. Coming up next, Fox News, followed by SuperTalk Mississippi News.